I'm going to go ahead and start. Um, this will probably be a short session, but I wanted to just post mostly some announcements for kind of our last week of face-to-face classes here. Just remind people where we're at. Yeah, I was going to do a little bit of review, but mostly I just wanted to make certain everybody was knew what was on the test they need to do this week, and just remind people about all of the things that you have to do. So at the time that you're probably seeing this, if you're watching this online, the test 2 should actually be open. Okay, so our final test is the same format as our midterm test. So if you go and look on the link here, once it's open, so the test should be open sometime this morning after I get done with class here. If you go on and look in this link, there should be a link on there to download an IPython notebook and also a .csv file. Okay, so for assignment 2, there's 2 questions, but they're both kind of multi-part, so it's kind of unfair to say that they're just 2 questions. It works in the same way that we did for our previous test. So there is an online component. It is timed, so to take the test, you should do some setup beforehand. So I am expecting that you have a running IPython environment, so Jupyter notebooks that you can run. So you should be able to use the same things that you've been doing for your assignments. I'm expecting the same versions of software and stuff. You should download the IPython notebook for test 2 and the wine.csv data file for test 2 before you begin doing the test, and have those up and able to run. I don't think it's giving away too much, so I am asking you to load that wine CSV file from a file into like a pandas data frame. You'll probably want it into a pandas data frame. So the first question is really just kind of an end-to-end review of the stuff that you should be kind of familiar with at this point in the class. So I ask you to open the file, do a little bit of data exploration, so find some of the basic statistics on the file, that kind of stuff. Then maybe do a little bit of data cleaning. So I can't remember exactly, but you might have to do some things like that. Maybe find some, impute some missing values or that kind of stuff. So those are the sorts of things you might want to review. And then after that, I'll ask you to visualize the data. So do some sort of a plot. And then you'll have to fit some models to it. So I think I ask you to do a logistic regression, and also to do like an ensemble of some kind. So do a random forest maybe or something like that. So I don't remember exactly, but that's basically what the first part of it is. So kind of a quick end to end. Although I realize that the test is timed. You have 2 hours from when you start the question to submitting your notebook. Okay, so like before on test 1, what you need to do is you need to upload your notebook after you're done within, I give maybe about a 5-minute grace period. So once you're finished with your test, you should upload your notebook into the test 2 submission folder. Okay, so that should be visible as well for the test 2 here. And then the second question is you're going to continue using the wine CSV data set, but to do some unsupervised learning. So you might have to do a PCA or a k-means clustering or both. Okay, so one of those kinds of things. All right. So those are the 2 main questions, just to give you a kind of a heads up on the kind of stuff that you want to review. All right. So let me know if you have any questions about that before you start on it. I hopefully I don't mean it to be that tough. I do hope that the 2 hours is plenty for most people. You should have done all the kinds of stuff that I asked you to do beforehand, right? So I do ask you to do those things once again, the kind of loading a data file, doing some analysis, doing some visualization, maybe a little bit of data cleaning, that kind of stuff, and then fitting a model and evaluating it. So the wine data set is a classification task when you get to the modeling part. So that at the moment I have that open. So like I said, by the time you see this, it probably will already be open. So you can start the test anytime you want to. I've got it open right now from Tuesday till all the way to the end of the day on Thursday. I could maybe extend that a little bit if you really need to. Let me know. But I would like everybody to try and get that finished up, by Thursday, so I can begin evaluations on that. Right. So yeah, I think that's all I had for the test. I guess I already kind of gave some recommendations on, I would recommend just going back, probably if you look at your previous assignments. And in fact, this is kind of a comprehensive sort of thing. So all the way back to I think especially like the second assignment where we had, or was it the third assignment, where we did a little bit of kind of an end-to-end sort of thing with a data set where you had to do a little bit of cleaning and visualization and exploration and that kind of stuff. So that would be a useful thing to review in general. And then for the second question, you can go back. You can look at the most recent assignment. I'm still working on getting those returned on the unsupervised learning. So my preliminary assessments of what I've looked at, what people had given me so far, it looked like people were fine on that, so that was good. So I think there won't be too many problems with people's assignment 6 submissions. I should get those back hopefully before our next Thursday. Although I probably won't have a video for next Thursday. I will be available here in the class face to face, or as usual, you can always email me if you need to clarify something, or need to ask something about the task or review, or where you're at with things. So. But yeah, this might be the final video that I do for our online class. Yeah, besides that, I'll come back to that in a moment. Don't forget about the class project as well. So you will be wrapping up the test this week, but you still will have one more thing to do before Thursday of next week. You do need to get that done before Thursday of finals week, basically whatever you have in there by Thursday will be the last stuff that I'll be able to look at. So I'll have to be evaluating that stuff at the end of next week. So you want to make certain that anything you want to have evaluated on your class project, you do get finished up and put into your repository before, at latest by Thursday. So. All right, I'll come back to that. I've probably kind of maybe a bit of a short day today. I was going to maybe say a few things about our topic this week. Is there's a couple of Dr. Ng's videos again that I recommend. He has some good big picture sort of practical advice on applying machine learning. So I'd really, if you haven't looked at those yet, I'd really recommend you go back and look at those. Those were the kind of the only links that I'd given to. If it wasn't clear, I was talking about his lecture notebooks and his videos on the ones numbered 10A and 10B in his thing as kind of good things to look at this week. Those are good things to be thinking about, keeping in mind as you're working on getting your class project wrapped up and getting some results on that. So. So yeah, I'll maybe mention a few things about that, but let me go back. Just remind some stuff about the test then. So kind of the main purpose of today was to just give the announcement about our second test, make certain that everybody was aware of that, kind of knew what to expect on that. So by the time you see that, it'll probably be open up. So I'm going to have it open up from Tuesday, like after this session, after I get done with this, until pretty much all day Thursday. So if everybody needs a little bit more time on that, let me know. But I would I would really like everybody to do it in that time frame if at all possible. Plus, that'll kind of get you mostly wrapped up on this course, so you can concentrate on other stuff if you need to, and your class project, of course. The second test, it is the same format as the first one, so it is a time test. It will be conducted through MyLeo Online, so it's open up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but so you need to select a time when you want to go ahead and attempt it, but once you start your attempt, you'll have 2 hours. You'll be given the questions at that point through MyLeo Online. You'll have 2 hours to answer the questions, and then the same as last time. What you should do is there is an IPython notebook, so you'll need to submit, upload your IPython notebook with your work for the test 2 into the test 2 submission folder. Okay, so. If you click on that, you'll probably see something a little bit different since I'm doing this in viewing it as an instructor. But yeah, you should see before you start the test, you should go ahead and download. There is a IPython notebook, and there is also a .csv data file. So you should download those and make certain that you can run the notebook in Jupyter Lab or however normally, what's the thing you've been using to edit Jupyter Notebooks. And then it's kind of a hint. So to go over this a little bit again, there's 2 questions. Both of them are going to be using this wine CSV data file. So, it's not giving away too much. I don't think that you probably, even before you begin the test, you want to make certain that you can open up that file and load it into like a pandas data frame. So the first question is the test is comprehensive. So the first question is really sort of an end-to-end kind of thing on this data set. So I ask you to read it in, to do some summary statistics, so basically some data exploration kinds of things, right? There might be a little bit of data cleaning as well, so maybe you have to add some missing data, or at least find if there's any missing data, things like that, maybe add in a new feature, stuff like that. So those are the kind of questions you might get on sort of the data engineering part, and then you probably have to visualize it. So you'll have to probably make a plot of the data of some sort. And then finally, I do ask you to do a model of it. I think I asked you to do 2. So you probably have to do like a logistic regression, like a basic one, and then you have to do something like maybe do like an ensemble. So that's kind of the first question on the test. It's multi-part, but it's really just asking you to do hopefully stuff that everybody's familiar with at this point in the class. So getting a data file, exploring it, building a model from it, evaluating the model. So at a minimum, the test might ask you to at least evaluate what your percentage of correct and incorrect answers were. I can't remember if I asked you to do like a train test split, but you might have to do that. So split the data and evaluate it, how it does on unseen test data, those types of things. So that was the first question on the test. And then the second question on the test is on unsupervised learning, although it is still using the wine data file, but you might have to do principal component analysis and or like a k-means clustering. So one or the other, or maybe both on that second part to do some exploration on the wine data set by reducing the dimensions, or maybe trying to cluster the data and see if that has any insights, that type of thing. So anyway, that's kind of what the second part is. But the whole test is using the same data file. So kind of back to the general things. Make certain that you have this downloaded, and I would go ahead and just recommend that you also are ready to be able to load that file into a Pandas data frame. You'll need it into a data frame and or into like a NumPy array in order to do all the work there, but get that loaded from a plain file. So I probably gave this in the instructions, but for this test, I would prefer that you just go ahead and put the IPython notebook and the wine.csv file in the same directory, and don't use like an absolute path, although I don't know, but just expect that the file, when you do the read or the load, however you load it into some sort of an array or data frame, that it's in the current local directory, so that you don't specify any kind of a path, not even like up to like a data directory. Just assume it's in the same directory as your test notebook. That would be the easiest for me in terms of getting these down and running them when I evaluate them. Okay, and and I already mentioned, but I'll say it one more time. So once you're done with all that, just be ready to upload your notebook. So it'll be like maybe a 5-minute grace period or so. But once the test is officially done, you should everybody should go ahead and upload it to the test 2 assignment submission folder for the test. So that's where I'll be expecting to get the work on these to evaluate them. All right. So yeah, that was it. That's all I can think about for the test. That should be available now. So let me know if people have questions on that. I do recommend that you just do a little bit of a review and have that set up before you start your attempt on the test. Make certain that you've got everything ready. Make certain that you know that where the submission folder is that you need to upload it to once you're done, and that you've actually got your Jupyter notebook running, and then can actually have the file down and can actually open it up and load it into a data frame or an array or something like that. So, okay, and then the other thing I thought I would do for today, just talk a little bit more about your class projects, or that's a little bit of the goal of sort of the assigned readings. So I was recommending that you go through Dr. Ng's videos for our textbook. Really, so one thing I mentioned, we started off on chapter 2 relatively early in the course, but when you're thinking about your project, this is kind of a good sort of thing to review, just with some ideas of what you would typically have to do when you have a data set in order to work with it. So you start by getting data, gain some insights on it, so that's really kind of exploration. From your exploration, you end up with some ideas about then what's actually in the data, what might be missing. So your preparation might be actually fixing up data if you have data missing, or adding in data, or engineering data, and then for our class project in general for these kinds of things, that's all sort of preliminary. So usually what you're trying to do is work up so that you can build some sort of a model to make predictions on it, a regression or classification model if you're doing supervised learning usually. So you would, once you've got your data prepared, you would then start comparing, building models of it and comparing those and fine-tuning those. So anyway, if you remember back to this chapter 2, I mean, that was really meant to be sort of kind of an example of the end-to-end process that's typical for a machine learning project. Right? If you remember, we used that this California housing data set that was in there. So. So I thought, I'll come back to the Appendix B here, but also, I mean, I thought Dr. Ng does a very good job, if you haven't watched his videos, of kind of covering these same things, so kind of giving a big picture sort of review of things you might want to do. So like he goes into a couple of things of like, if you get stuck or if you're looking for some ideas on how you might increase your performance. So for example, some of the stuff we did talk about, some of the stuff we didn't, but how you might do some feature engineering by, for example, adding new features, polynomial features, that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, if you watch Dr. Ng's videos, so the first one on his advice for applying is mostly once you're to the part of trying to model your data and you're trying to fine tune or tweak things in order to improve your performance. That's really what the 10A advice for applying is all about. So things you might think about in order to improve performance of your models that you're working with. So, and a little bit more about bias and variance, right? So when you get into tougher problems, usually the biggest issue when you're down to trying to model stuff is, you're trying to get the right balance between overfitting and underfitting, right? And that's really what the bias versus variance trade-off is all about, that we talked a little bit about in this course. So you usually have to, find a model, try and get a model that's overfitting, and then start trying to regularize it using some sort of regularization technique, like we talked about, in order to fight the overfitting and find the right balance in order to get the best kind of performance that you can expect from your data set. So yeah, I didn't have a lot to say. He had another video also with some kind of advice on things. What else? As a final thing for today, I also had kind of mentioned Appendix B as well, and sort of the readings. So, if you haven't looked at this yet, again, this might be a good kind of, even going forward, I do like this textbook. I do think it's kind of one of those ones, if you're going to get into data analytics, machine learning as a career in industry or academia, it'll be a useful book to kind of hold on to. So the Appendix B is kind of just a good thing, kind of checklist sort of ideas of stuff. So if you haven't looked at this already for your class project, might be a little bit late, but even going forward into your future, this kind of stuff, until you've done these things a lot on your own, and have familiarity with sort of the kinds of workflow that you're typically going to end up with, this can kind of help you organize or think about what you have to do. This is really the same as we were looking at for Chapter 2, sort of the top level. But as you're doing these individual parts, so, I don't know where people are on working on their final class project. Hopefully they're not just beginning. You've done some work on things, but this is really just the Appendix B is really just a checklist of checklists. So for each one of these, then a sub checklist filling out more. So for example, like on data exploration. Just to pick something a little bit at random, right? So, if when you really get into trying to build the best kind of predictive model that you can for a set of data, you do have to kind of start with understanding the data set. The data exploration part is pretty important. So, when you really need to end up with, do well on modeling, get the best kind of model, but get the best kind of performance possible, you really have to dig down and kind of really understand each thing that you have attribute by attribute in your data set. What type it is, what its distribution is, get some feeling for how predictive it is for, like if you're doing a classification task, how correlated it is to your label or not correlated, or use some of the other methods, like we talked about. So like use random forest in order to give you some evaluation of the importance of each feature for building a decision tree, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that, but so yeah, there might be like on your test 2 here, I can't remember, but I mean one of the questions on the exploration that might ask you to do like a correlation again. I think that might have been one of the questions on the test 2 for the wine data set, to find which feature is most correlated with the categorical label that we're trying to use for the test. So that's often kind of, again, it's one of the first things that I often do is look at the correlations between the features and the whatever the label is that I'm working with to begin to get a feel for which might be more important, which might be less important, that kind of thing. And or use something like the methods in the random forest in order to get some feel for the importance of the different features that we have. So. All right, and I won't go through these one by one, but if as you're doing stuff with your class project, I do think that this can be helpful for a lot of students. From my experience with previous kind of class project and class like this, it's often useful to have something that's giving you some ideas or something to organize your thoughts on the kind of steps that you should take or things you ought to be trying out and doing. So, all right. Okay, yeah, so, I mean, like I said, I think that's all I kind of really have for today. It was mostly just announcement today. And, as far as for people online or here, I'm probably not going to have another video. I'll probably be in here if anybody, if you want to come in or and ask about questions. We'll still have the test open by Thursday. But yeah, I didn't really have anything else to cover this week, I don't think. So, yeah, so that'll be it, I think. We'll go ahead and stop there. Just make certain that you do get the test done, and make certain that if you have any questions for it, just let me know. Hopefully it shouldn't be too much for most people, right? It is meant to be kind of stuff that you've practiced a lot on the class, and so you should be all familiar with the test questions and things. All right, yep, that's it.